Come to it. There we go. It helps if we push the right button. Thank God for thought power. Otherwise, we just keep pushing the same button over and over again and wonder why it doesn't work. Om Sahanā-Vavatu, Sahanā-Bhunaktu, Vīryam Karavā-vahai, Tejas Vinā Vadhīta Mastu, Vidvishā-Vahai. Om Shānti, Shānti, Shāntihi. On below Sadhguru Sivananda Maharaj Ki, for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai, Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, looks like today we're good. So, now the feed is good. For some reason, we were being asked to do this this morning. So, okay, for those joining us online, we over 30 days. 30 mornings, we covered thought power, the teachings of thought power, Swami Sivananda's essential teaching of really yoga psychology and the transformative power within us that allows us to uplift and change our lives and finally to be free, to be completely free. We recognize the Buddhist teaching, Swami Sivananda teaching, not different at all. The Buddha in the Dhammapada, which is the sayings of Buddha, which is a revered text in all of the Buddhist traditions, all of them. He states in the first two sutras, which are called the twin verses, he says one way and then says another way, that all that we are is the sum total of our thoughts. So as persons, as character, our destiny, all that we are, all that it is the sum total of our thoughts. And he says, think limited negative thoughts and suffering follows you as the wheel of the ox cart follows the heel of the ox. And then he says the same thing this way. He says, all that we are is the sum total of our thoughts. We are made of thoughts. We craft our destiny in thoughts. Think positive thoughts, beneficial thoughts, compassionate thoughts. And happiness follows you as the wheel of the ox cart follows the heel of the ox. So we come to know that the difference between bondage and freedom is simply thought, in the thought realm, because the soul is essentially free already. So this teaching, one of the great teachings, certainly the pinnacle of the teaching shared by Swami Sivananda, when I went to India and dear Swami Ramaswarupananda Ji Maharaj put his arms around me and welcomed me in and helped me to understand what I was dealing with and who we are and how to free ourselves from the entanglement. When he was helping me in this way, the first book that he gave me, and he gave me many books. I have still on the phone about 100 books that Swami Ramaswarup gave me. He gave me his entire electronic library. People thought of Swamiji as a tech Swami. So, first one was thought power. And I believe that over the 4 years we've been here with ashram, we've covered thought power all the way through 5 times, something like that. So, and in the early days hosted positive thinking workshops, etc., when we were still able to have retreats here at the other location. So, like this. So and then there's a summary of the techniques, and that's what we'll cover this morning. We'll just step through them. And I had mentioned that repeatedly as we were in the last week of this, that there were 15 techniques. And then when we compiled it, we learned that it was missing one. So there are 16 techniques, and it might be missing more. And if anyone joining us has an idea of one that it's missing, please let us know. So here we'll just step through, and it's not in any particular order. The first one is really Hatha Yoga. Yoga, what we'll call in some of the traditions the 5 whats of yoga.
5 points.
5 points of yoga and 4 paths. So the 5 points and the 4 paths really defining holistic yoga or traditional or classical yoga. And 5 points being proper exercise, proper diet, proper relaxation, proper?
It's the breathing, I think.
Proper breathing, yes, very good. And then positive thinking and meditation. So those also not in the correct order, but the points are there. So first is the system of yoga itself as it relates to thought. And yoga is management of thought energy. People think that yoga is some sort of physical exercise, but what we learn, of course, in study of thought power, if we really reflect on it, is that the physical body is made of thought anyway. This is the great discovery of quantum physics.
Yeah.
So it's not said this way, but it is this way, that the physical body is made of quanta. The physical body is made of waves, and the waves are thought waves. And that's exactly what the yogis have been saying since time immemorial, is that thought is the constructor of the body, that the body is made of thought. And so it's not about physical exercise, although there is physical exercise there. It's really about controlling the thoughts. The entirety of Hatha Yoga is about controlling and uplifting the thoughts and then being free of the thoughts. So we start there. And a few points. Asanas help move the prana and remove mental blockages. Pranayama balances and supplies new energy. Relaxation, proper relaxation removes stress. Proper diet gives more vital energy, and meditation recharges and purifies thoughts. So we say 75,000 thoughts a day on average, something like that, in the worldly life. Mm-hmm. We don't even see them. It's so fast. It's one reaction to another. Like in the supermarket, how many thoughts walking through the supermarket alone for the worldly mind? It's thousands. Thousands. We're picking up. No wonder we feel exhausted after leaving the market. So yoga practice, these 5 points, practice of the 5 points, regular practice, and it doesn't have to be long, helps to cut that back and uplift on its own. And it's happening without us knowing it. One of the things when we talk with practitioners of yoga, people that have a regular practice for a couple of years, always, if we talk with them, we find that they've experienced some of the mental loading falling away. Less anger, less fear, less judgment, like that. It's not that it's perfected on its own, but a great aid. And it gets the thoughts down to a more manageable level. And then the rest of the points. Replace. So the next one is Pratipaksha Bhavana, which is really an all-purpose technique for dealing with thought. And the concept is to replace thought with opposite thought. Examples given. Forgiveness instead of retaliation. So someone does something, and there's an aspect of the mind, in the worldly mind, which and I say it that way. It's not a curse. It's just as we take this birth, we find that the mind is still functioning with the animal in it, and so all of the protection mechanisms are there, but identification with body instead of identification with spirit. And so the big flaw, we say as a computer programmer, and we had Chandrika with us for a week not too long ago, and she also works with software, and so we had a good laugh about this. If you're writing a program, but you make a mistake on the first line of code, the center of the code, the fundamental code, if you make a mistake there, then every other line will be a mistake. Mm-hmm. Because every other line is dependent upon that first line. It's like at the center of the being. And what we're dealing with is in this human birth is exactly this. The center of the human, the very first line of code the programmer wrote was an intentional error. Because without that intentional error, no world. No projection. We can discuss more, and we discuss all the time. And as a result, every thought that's arising from this feeling of being separate is an error. And so all of these protection mechanisms that are existing, this thought of retaliating, this thought of taking, this thought of hating, these feelings, all of this are rooted in the mistaken identity that I am this body instead of I am soul. Yes. And as soul, I am eternal. I am always. There's never been a time when I have not been. There will never be a time when I will not be. The same for you and the same for everyone. So we don't want to get to bypassing from that, but so the need then is to replace these thoughts, and here the technique is replace with opposite thought. Instead of retaliation, bring forgiveness. Instead of taking, think of giving and act it. Instead of hating, find the way to love. Instead of desire, practice contentment, santosha. Instead of restlessness, practice peace. And then the technique he gives us is a 3-step, which is first, when these limited thoughts come, ignore. So don't give it power, don't go there, forget it, let it go, and replace it. So it's a process to go through with them. That's, as we say, an all-purpose technique. Third is the meditative approach. Be indifferent to negative thoughts. And that's the Zen approach, which is observe it, don't touch it. This works very well with what we consider to be random thoughts that are less pervasive. For example, we might have a tendency towards anger, and that might be in the background of the mind. That when something happens that's not understood, the first thing that happens might be anger. Anger might arise, or fear might arise, but each of us will have some deep tendency that's a groove that's really related to why we came here this time. And so this technique won't get there. If you just ignore it, it remains. Yeah. But with some of the ones that are lighter, letting them go, they'll go. So, next. And he says, the moment the thought appears, observe it with detachment. And that's the key. And then let it go. Do not dwell on it or identify with it. By the way, I'll share one of our Sangha learned exactly this technique. And what he shares is that in the past, he had believed that every thought that came to him deserved his attention and deserved him to meditate upon it, to reflect on it, to consider it. And of course, what he discovered through the process is, oh my God, some of them I don't want to touch at all. I don't want to take any time with them. So he learned this technique. He learned to use discernment when the thought comes and see whether it's actually worth investigating or not. And so, and if it's not, then with detachment, you let it go.
So for the background thoughts that we're saying, like anger, for example, we cannot just like do the Zen, ignore it, but can it be like Pratipakṣa-bhavana, for example, for them?
Pratipakṣa-bhavana, yes, and we also get to the other one, the Peace Pilgrim one, which has to do with energy and sublimation of energy. Right. Yeah. With anger in particular, fear not so much, but with anger in particular. And these tools that we're going through are like tools in a toolbox. Through study of the book, and those who join us online that would like a copy of the book, once again today I'll post the PDF link. There's a download link. There is a Kindle link on Amazon, they sell the Kindle version for, I think, 65 cents or something like that. So it's effectively free. There's an audiobook on YouTube, and I'll post the link for that in summary as well today. And then the printed books, we have some copies, and they're around as well. So you can ask, and I'd be happy to send you a free copy of Thought Power. So it's worth reading again, especially with these techniques, to have an understanding, a better understanding of where to use what. But I will share this. The most important thing is to have the resolve, is to recognize that it is possible to change them, and recognize the power of the thought, which helps you to realize that you have to change them if you wish to be happy. And if you wish to bring happiness or peace to others, you have to change them. You can't let the limited thoughts perpetuate. And we allow the I thought, the I, my thought, which is I need, I want, if only, all of this stuff, we allow that to perpetuate and control us, then there is suffering. There are momentary breaks from it, and then suffering once again. It's just like this. And we live life blindly in this place where we don't even know what our tongue is doing and the pain that we're causing all about us. Yeah, and so waking up really has to do with this, and recognizing that you do have the power to do it, and recognizing the urgency of it. And here, again, Peace Pilgrim shares this great wisdom. If you knew the power of your thoughts, you would never think a negative thought again. And this is it. This is when we say transformation, this is it. So recognizing this is the most important thing, because then when you're seeing a tendency, you'll ask, what is the best way to deal with this? And if you have this, and if you've read the book and really put some time into it, then you'll know. And if not, email Swami or or pull the book out or like that. Okay, and sublimation is the next one. Sublimation technique. Sublimation means to use up the energy for something positive or higher. It's really a direct exchange, energy exchange from one state to another, with the energy being constant, but the state itself having changed. And I had mentioned a couple of days ago when we did our test run on this, that a friend, when I was living in Colorado, a friend explained sublimation by pointing to snow melt. Traditionally, we're used to snow melting and becoming water, but in Colorado, it can be very cold at night, big snow, and then in the morning, the sun is so bright and intense that that energy transmutation, the snow goes to gas right away, and you just see the steam rising, and you don't see puddles of water. In the same way, we're dealing with some of these persistent thoughts with sublimation technique, which means using up the energy for something positive or higher, and turning negative thoughts into less harmful thoughts, channel thoughts, that is, refocus and redirect the energy. And we share them. One of the best examples of this, if we look at anger, there's a lot of energy with anger. And so anger has a lot of potential. Peace Pilgrim had met a family, and they wanted her help. The man had terrible anger, and he abused his family, his wife and children. And so they asked for help. No one wanted the situation. That's a mistake. When there are abusive situations, somehow we think someone wants to abuse. It's never that case. They're stuck. And so he was stuck. And Peace Pilgrim gave him this sublimation technique. She said, get a push lawnmower, and every time you start to feel that anger energy arise, go outside and mow the lawn. And he did exactly that. And a year later, when she met with them, the push lawnmower was gone, and they were all happy. He was smiling. And he said, yeah, I finally didn't have the energy. When the anger didn't arise, I couldn't do it anymore. So that's sublimation. And it's a great one. And we said, when you start to feel anger arise, don't get a punching bag. Don't pattern it. Don't perpetuate it. Immediately choose and have some way in advance that when it happens, you're going to scour the pans that need to be scoured, or you're going to clean the bathrooms, or you're going to go out into the garden and like this and do some work, something like that. That's a great technique, and it works with others as well, but anger in particular because of the energy that comes with it. Concentration technique is number 5. This is the concentrating the mental rays, and these thought waves are like rays. They can be focused and brought to bear in a situation. Prayer circles are a great example of that, the transformative power of prayer. Just by concentrating and visualizing, and especially when we see it in a group, the transformations that it brings are amazing. So it's a beautiful demonstration of thought power and of concentrated rays. The concept we're given is like the magnifying glass in the sun to concentrate the rays and bring the power of the thought to bear. And in the same way, the mind in worldly state, as we have come here and as we've experienced life up to this point, the mind has been in charge. We've been the slave. We're working to reverse that. And the primary approach to do so is concentration. Learn to concentrate the mind. Learn to concentrate it on ideals and on important points. You see, the diffuse mind, we experience, I can picture Swami Chidananda talking about it one evening at satsang, and he's with a group, and he said, the mind does exactly the opposite of what you want it to do. This is diffuse mind. You want it to remember something, and it won't remember, right? You say, very important, I remember this, but something that you say, I don't ever want to think about this again.
12 times.
Yeah, and that's the diffuse mind.
Yes.
So concentrated mind, meaning you're developing control of the mind. You put the mind on the subject that you want it to contemplate. So you want to think about Swami Sivananda's life, or you want to think about Krishna, or you want to think about service and the great servants and like this. So it brings calmness and clarity. We focus the mind on positive thought only. And we want to keep the mind engaged. And this seems to be a secret that we all somehow learn about. Oh my God, I used to plan for vacations. And I enjoyed the planning for the vacation so much because the mind was concentrated. But then when I got to the vacation, it sucked. Because now the mind is, I had the idea, I want to relax. But as soon as the mind tries to relax, it goes without a tether. And so the key here with concentration is to keep the mind engaged. Keep the mind engaged at all times. Distracted mind is a source of negativity. Gossip leaks into the mind. Backbiting, starting to think about this other person, what a terrible person they are, all of this stuff. And how I was injured one time. And then it becomes real to us, as if it's real, but it's not. It's not. The stories have power over us. The stories have power over us only to the extent that we meditate upon the stories and give them power. That's it. But if you choose for the story to be the story and just let it be the story, just let it be. And choose to concentrate yourself on virtue, concentrate yourself on that which is beneficial and that which is uplifting, concentrate yourself on the teachings of peace like this, then you craft a whole new life for yourself. A whole new life for yourself. Not about, and so there's a different story, but now you're not concerned about the story.
Right. Because you're in the present moment.
Because you're here now.
Oh.
Swami Sivananda says, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Positive visualization, very cool, which is have a mental image of yourself endowed with the positive quality you seek, whatever it is. Say, for example, that you're a late riser and you want to get up early. One of the great techniques for that is to visualize yourself doing it and to visualize yourself repeatedly in this way. Don't just say, I'm going to get up early tomorrow. take a moment and visualize yourself. See yourself. You say, I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and sit and meditate tomorrow morning. And then you say, I'm going to do it every day. Well, one day at a time. But you have to keep it up. So you resolve and visualize yourself. See yourself. Bring that mental image of yourself getting up without grogginess, with clarity, and doing exactly what you want to do. Great power in this. This is a power that somehow I had cultivated in prior births, and I didn't recognize it as a power, but it's something when I was living the worldly life. People called me a visionary, and it's interesting. This is what's meant: the ability to visualize the goal, the successful completion of the goal, and that power now. Applied in worldly ways, happiness doesn't come, but applied in the techniques of yoga, it does. That ability to visualize is a great power, and it can be cultivated. So, self-affirmation. Repeating something to yourself to affirm. He says here, it's like taking regular doses of medicine or vitamins to prevent the reoccurrence of habitual thoughts. Consciously repeat to yourself the opposite thought. And he gives an example, which is from Swami Sivananda. Through the grace of God, I'm becoming better and better every day in every way. That's one in thought power. But with whatever we're working with, we can do it. This statement is true. Evolution works one direction. It's a funny thing. The world is not the way it appears, but it is true that each of us are evolving. And if you look at someone else, you may argue the point and say, no, but if you look at yourself, you'll see it. Right? We're learning here. And so learning makes us better. And we may be learning something that doesn't help us now, but that process of learning something that doesn't help us now allows us to check the box, and it helps us learn what we need to learn next. So it is. But this self-affirmation is important. In Shivananda Yoga asana practice, self-affirmation is used in the final relaxation. And what you see is when you tell yourself a certain thing, the body, the whole mental instrument, does its best to come into that form, into that shape. So you tell yourself, I am relaxed. I am whole and complete. Especially if there's not a counter thought immediately after, then you'll feel the relaxation come into the body. You'll feel the breath settle. Yeah. So power of self-affirmation. Maintaining a cheerful attitude. Do not take yourself so seriously. If you can laugh at yourself, the worst is over. Keep having a sense of humor. And santosha, or contentment, is here as well. The difference between poverty and prosperity, again, is only a mental attitude. It's not about having things, because all of the great wealth is within you already. Peace is within you already. Wisdom or the intuition is within you already. God is within you already. Happiness is within you already. We can be very active and cover them up, but what we learn is even if we cover them up, we don't lose them. They're still within us already. So everything that we engage in order to get in an industrious life, everything that we engage in order to get is already within. So prosperity is about this. Ultimately, prosperity is about fullness or satisfaction. And so, everything else here is not complete. The physical life is not eternal. There's a beginning. Where there's a beginning, there's an end. Yeah? So it's not eternal. So you can't build a physical life that's satisfactory. Not for long. So poverty is not relating to money, but even the material things, for one who is satisfied with what they have, they discover that material goods are even on offer. We get out of our own way, as it were. This is Jesus teaching, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of this shall be added unto you. So for the one who does not want, there is always plenty. Next, guerrilla technique, thought by thought. This is more of a brute force technique, which through practice of thought power you develop. We use the example, Gopala asked us to tell the story, and I think it's in number 29 or 30, something like that, about the waterfall, the not waterfall or waterfall. So we won't tell the story now, but you can look it up. And the point of it was the ability to stop the thoughts, one particular thought as it comes, or change one particular thought. Guerrilla technique. Invite positive thoughts in their friends. Open yourself when you're contemplating positive thoughts or bringing positive thoughts. Open yourself to the associated thoughts because they come together. Negative thoughts, limited thoughts come together. Positive thoughts come together. When you're in the groove and in that sattvic place, then so many wonderful thoughts, so many beneficial thoughts. And you even see that when you are well-wishing, when you are in the inner world, wishing well to others, specific people that are suffering with difficulties, or communities, or all, when you're in that place, such a wealth of well-wishing thoughts will come. Keep satsanga and study of inspirational teachings. And so it's not true that you are the company that you keep, but it is true that the mind is heavily influenced by it. And so ultimately you're in control of your destiny. Your destiny doesn't have to do with your circumstances. The circumstances are what give you the opportunity to craft or create your destiny. How you act or react according to the circumstances are important. But having said that, to the extent possible, to recognize that the five senses are all gateways to the mind and to the thoughts, and to intentionally cultivate food through each of the different senses that are bringing sattva into the mind. So instead of watching scary flicks, watch Swami Sarva-Priyananda on YouTube.
Yes.
Or Swami Shankarananda on YouTube. We have a lot of YouTube now too. We have the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll have thought power shortly. Go to satsanga, genuine satsanga when it's in the area. Sometimes take a retreat if you can. Get yourself to satsanga for a while. Study inspirational teaching. So Bhagavad Gita, everyone should read the Bhagavad Gita, and regardless of religious affiliation, or you think you're an atheist, fine, no worries, you still want to be happy, so read the Bhagavad Gita. It turns out it's not about worshiping someone apart from you. It was never about that. It was always about finding who you are and honoring the real self.
That's it.
And so in Bhagavad Gita, 5 pages a day. You can sit and read it cover to cover once. Cool. If you have a couple days off, then make a project of it, sit and read it all the way through. But then resume 5 pages a day, like that. Or Raja Yoga Sutras. Within yoga, those are the 2 teachings that have to be studied by all yoga teachers. They're really effectively in all yoga teacher trainings. Yoga teacher trainings generally give them short shrift. Yeah, you get the Gita in 2 days, 2 hours. 1 hour a day, 2 days. But this transforms the mind. It gives the mind a good diet. Vital foods help support this as well, and others that are really addressed in the 5 points. But satsanga and study of inspirational teachings. Number 12, take time in nature. If you're restless, confused, depressed, etc., find peace in places where higher thoughts are present. Higher thoughts are already present. So ashram, monastery, yes, definitely. Also parks, arboretums, gardens, forest, like this. People who live near the forest should make a point of getting themselves into the forest. The nature in these places, which are natural, orderly, are sattvic as well. And so we experience a cultivation of sattvic energies there. 13, chanting mantra and either japa or kirtan, both, and singing. So mantras have the power to change negative vibrations to positive ones. Actually, they do it. It's not that they can, it is that they do it. Chanting japa, repetition of mantra, or kirtan, singing mantras, is like washing your mind out with really good soap. And the guidance is learn kirtan, which you can chant anytime. Don't wait to be with other people to chant kirtan. Just do it yourself. And you've taken this on. I know, I hear you in here playing and chanting kirtan while you're cleaning the floor and all of that. And that's like perfect. So, yeah.
Meditation.
The mantra is really an essential practice. Working with mantra is an essential practice in Kali Yuga, in this time, regardless of the tradition. So, and there are mantras in every tradition. Ancient mantras are better. Gratitude, number 14. It's easy to be thankful for the things that happen that you like. We were talking the other day about intentionally cultivating an attitude of gratitude for much more than that, for everything. And the more that we're able to cultivate this attitude of gratitude, the more we find ourselves to be free. Because finally, there's only one doer here. And this is always arising. It's so persistent with us, this concept of otherness, this I-ness, mine-ness, and which means you other. And so you do something I don't like. And a reaction comes up, like, whatever. I don't even want to say it. There's so many of them, aren't there? And immediately, now I'm in a world where you and I are separate, where we're not even related, for God's sakes. That's craziness. It's craziness. We map the human genome. We actually know that we're the same. Scientifically, we know it. In Vedanta, study of Vedanta, we sure as heck can find out and learn it. We're identical. In the center, we're one.
That's right.
There's no other. So who's doing? Who's the one doing? Well, the nature of the one is doing whatever's being done here. So, and it's being done according to our own actions. And so this isn't, again, intended for spiritual bypassing. It's just for us to recognize, so there was no other that did this. I did this to myself. It's not even some separate God that did it. Right. The God in me did it to the lower aspect of me so that the higher aspect of me could finally let go of the lower aspect of me and say, I love you, but I'm not following you anymore. And so no other, but otherness arises, no other. Okay, so whatever helps us to recognize that there's no other, if we are getting this, we would say, I should be grateful for that. Which means all the painful stuff that happens, we should be grateful for. All the difficult times, we should be grateful for.
It makes it easy.
So the practice that we shared on the last satsang, the practice that we shared is when something happens that you don't understand, try this. See if you can ask yourself the question, or ask inside, what could possibly be the benefit of this thing that happened? How could it possibly benefit? Yeah? And for those of us that have done it, we'd learn that some idea of how it might have benefited will come. Mm-hmm. And now you'll have a whole different way of looking at it, and you have the capacity, and see if you have the way then to be grateful for it. So, 15, Vedantic assertion. So this is, we can say self-affirmation, but this is a very specific one. Such as, I am not this body, I am not these thoughts, I am Satchidananda, existence, absolute knowledge, absolute bliss, absolute. So for the students of Vedanta, Yoga Vedanta, or any tradition, as we begin to recognize, today I'm driving to Yuma, and I'll be at Center for Spiritual Living. We have satsang there this evening, and then tomorrow morning I'll be offering the truth teaching, the sermon on freedom, and then driving back. Center for Spiritual Living, Science of Mind. Dr. Ernest Holmes is the inspiration underlying Center for Spiritual Living. It used to be called Religious Science several years ago, Church of Religious Science, and so too, the teaching is that I am not these thoughts. I am not this body. Thought is a great power which I can create and craft my destiny from. Does this sound familiar? Oh. I am spirit. I am whole and complete. Prosperity is a state of mind. Still sound familiar? So that's the teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes. In the book, the first book, as far as I know, that he wrote, Science of Mind. The name of it is Science of Mind. So it's a parallel book to Thought Power and Mind, Its Mysteries of Control, Mysteries in Control, etc., from the tradition that would be called New Thought tradition, when new ways of looking at the ancient teaching were coming in the 20th century. And so this Vedantic assertion has great power. When would you use it? Well, all the time. But all the time, every day. How often do you need to be reminded that I'm spirit, I'm not this body, I have no reason to be upset, I have no reason to be afraid? How often do you need to remind yourself of this? Do it that often, and a few more, just for good measure. But I tell you, a really good one is when there's illness coming through the body. Swami always gives this medicine when somebody's experiencing physical illness. And the medicine is chant your mantra, keep chanting your mantra mentally, and tell yourself, I am not this body is not me, and make the assertion that this illness is only in the body and it shall pass quickly. Yes. What comes goes, what goes comes. This too shall pass. And so, Vedantic assertion. And then the 16th is cultivation of virtues. And this is intentional cultivation of virtues, not just letting kindness happen. Cultivating kindness, and ultimately, one wants to have a goal in life. Now, worldly goals, in one way we can say they don't give us what we want, but in another way we'll say, well, by learning about goals and striving for goals, we learn how to develop a lot of the capacities that are important in order to be free. We develop strength of will in having a goal and doing our best to stay focused on the goal and to achieve it. We learn about concentrated mind, and we learn to concentrate the mind. We learn the visualization technique. We learn to visualize what it is that I wish. Ultimately, getting a thing or having an experience doesn't give happiness, but there is value in the techniques. What the goal wants to be, if you want to be happy, what the goal wants to be is a goal related to the virtues or a goal related to God, which are the same. which are the same. Happiness and God are one. Compassion and God are one. Love and God are one. So forgiveness and God are one. I mean, when that guidance to forgiveness comes, it's coming from Guru, and Guru is God. And so cultivating the virtue, it can be a daily goal, it can be an ongoing goal, but it wants to be reminded. The one that we took is, I will embody love. And of course, I couldn't do this on my own, only God could actually do it. So this has to be a work in process with the Lord. But a commitment, I will embody love. And then the virtues, working on cultivating the virtues, it is virtues that are supportive of, concomitant, consistent with love, such as compassion. I will develop compassion. I will work on compassion today. And with a clear goal of a virtue for the day, then one is able to focus on that virtue. Whatever you set a clear goal on, as long as you stick with it, as long as you don't give up on yourself, and there's no reason to give up on yourself because you are the eternal. Whatever you set this mind on, you will achieve. So be careful.
True.
Be careful. Make sure that it's something beneficial.
Yeah.
But honest to goodness, if what you want is to be president of the U.S., enough births, you'll get there, as long as you don't give up on it. If you want to be the best robber in the world, enough births, you'll get there. Somebody's got to do it, but please don't. Please don't. Because that'll bring so much misery. But you can do it if you want. If you want to be free, you can do it. You can do it. Oh, okay. Would you check for any comments or questions, please, Harry? Oops. Didn't spill much, so okay.
Rashira saying, oh, no questions, as these 16 techniques are very complete and simple to understand. Difficult to make the changes, but so worthwhile. Thank you.
Okay. Om Namah Shivaya. So this completes the teaching on top power. Except it doesn't, because now each and every one of us have the opportunity to learn even better by applying it, nididhyasana, by living as if it's true and doing our best to embody it and to apply it and to, in this way, to share the light. Not by proselytizing, not by preaching, but by living these principles, then we find the light within becoming brighter and we find it being shared.
So just I have a question about the techniques.
Yes.
Like more specifically, is it maybe advisable to dedicate a certain amount of time every day? Maybe like sit down 10 minutes and practice
Yes.
techniques?
Yes. It is. So we have in this tradition what's called a spiritual diary. But the concept is in every one of these philosophies, systems, whatever we call them, the transformational teachings. The more ultimately the mind has controlled us, and we are learning to control the mind. And in order to control the mind, we need a systematized approach. Now, not everything can be controlled, of course, but to the extent that we have the capacity to carve out a little bit of time in the morning and in the evening, specifically for sadhana, then our sadhana practices should include these practices. And each of us have to be our own physician in this way. So I'm not the one to tell you it should be this, this, and this, but you should absolutely take the time with these 16 and the teaching of thought power and a resolve. If you're really resolved to this, then sit down and put together your own plan in the morning and in the evening. And if you want to send me a note and say, how does this look? Please do. I'm here for you. So, and then of course the key is to practice it during the day. And what you discover is you fail, it's not really a failure, because if you have the resolve, and we've talked about this many times, if you have the resolve and you fail, what does that mean? It just means that the reactive tendency led, and that old reactive tendency isn't fully trained yet. And so it didn't happen the way you wanted. You wanted to have compassion for this person, but instead you got angry with them. But you'll see it. You'll see it. And you'll have the opportunity to vow again, to resolve again. And this is like the banana story, like the peeling of the banana story. Then you'll get there. You just stay with it and you get there. Forgive yourself. You have to forgive everyone. Forgive yourself. Forgive everyone. Start forgiving yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive everyone. Forgive yourself. Forgive everyone. Everything, anything that ever happened, forgive it. You have to clean the slate and start from here. And if you find you haven't done it yet, you have to do it again. That's all. It's actually easy and so purifying and so clarifying and such a great relief to forgive. Oh my God, all the stuff we've held on to. So this is one of the virtues as example. Okay, short final prayer in RT, page 174. Thank you, Hari. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushnivarjanam Orgai Rupameva Bandhanam Mritor Gomshayamam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushnivarjanam Orgai Rupameva Bandhanam Mritor Gomshayamam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushnivardanam Orgai Rupameva Bandhanam Mritor Mokshayamam Ritat Om Shānti Shānti Shāntihi. Humble Sakura Shivananda Saraswati for all the saints and sages of all the traditions.
Tvameva Vīryam Jaganam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Kayena Vacha Manasandriyava Buddhyatmanava Pravita Swava Karomi Ajat Sakalam Parismai Narayanaye Tisarvar Prayami Sarvam Dharmam Prechata Mamikam Sharanam Precha Aham Tva Sarvapapavyo Moksha Ishtami Mastu Jaha